Hello friends, welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Welcome to an introduction to React and hooks. This is going to be a complete and total introduction, mainly focused towards beginners. We're not going to talk about Redux, we're not going to get super complex, we're really just introducing you to React with hooks. Welcome to the show, everyone. Look at all the wonderful drops. I hope you all are doing well. And just real quick, close to 2 years ago, I did a live stream called Intro to React, Build a To-Do App. And today we're going to build the exact same app, but we're going to use only hooks. So in this live stream, I used class components, and that was the main way of doing React back then. But nowadays, hooks is the new cool thing. And I actually have an app in production at work where I'm using nothing but hooks. I have 0 classes in my entire React code base. So today I'm going to teach you what is React, and we're going to learn about it from the perspective of hooks. Welcome, everyone. Let's say hello, and thanks for the follow, Preston Keeley. Hello, Mr. First. Hello, William Tubbs. We are live now. We are live. And good night, Alka. Thanks for dropping by for a split second. And Mutassim says, can't wait for my favorite topic. I am not a full-time YouTuber. I have a day job. I stream whenever I can. And I work from home a lot, but nowadays we're forced to work from home. But after the stream, I got to go to work. I mean, I'm gonna stay here, but I'm gonna work from home. It will be fun. I agree. Yeah, I don't plan to do any Redux today. So yeah, it's gonna be just the basics of React. We could potentially show the use reducer hook, but we're not really even gonna use that. This is like basics. Back to basics. Yeah, should be fun. Hello, Rich. Let's say hello to everyone that said hello. Jorge says, finally able to catch a stream. How's the quarantine? It's pretty good. I got plenty of food stocked up. It's fun to stream for so many people. So many people are watching right now because everyone's at home. So that's always fun. And I'm used to being at home a lot, so it's not much of a difference for me. And hello, Sujan. Hello, Premix. Hello, Pranjal. Hello, One Line of Me. Hello, Revjot. Hello, Julian. Hello, Ashwin. Hello, Lucas. Hello, Casual Gameplay. Hello, Sefa. Hello, Soccer. Revjot says, my wife is also following your videos. That's good. Everyone can learn to code. And hello, Alana. Hello, Jonathan. Hello, Schnittlauch. Hello, Mohammed. I think Florin's in the chat. Cool. Hello, Franz. Hello, Sacred Gamin. Hello, Yannick. Hello, Raj. Hello, Guprit. Hello, your Herbie. There's this new emote on YouTube. I don't know what this is about. Elbow cough? What the heck? Where did these come from? Elbow bump? Elbow cough? That's a dab. That's not an elbow cough. What's that about? Hello, Boyson. Hello, Sharam. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, CZ. How about, could I do a video on Kafka? I've never worked with Kafka. I know the word. I've never used it before. Hello, Raj. Yeah, these are new emotes. Does anybody know what's going on with these emotes? Elbow cough, which is technically a dab. And then there's, elbow bump. Oh, you know, are these for the fact that coronavirus is a thing right now? And you should be coughing into your elbow and not shaking hands. Is that what those are for? That's crazy. And that's really funny. Hello, Cheyenne. Welcome. Happy Friday, Scott. Happy Friday to everyone. Waltrue. Hello, name. Basically, we've got a lot of hellos to say. And hello, Mladen. Hello, class. Hello, Rupna. Crow says, I love your content. You're awesome. Thank you very much, Crow. Hello, Alan. I have a 2015 MacBook Pro. So this is the MacBook that still has a full HDMI port. It still has USB ports. I am very reluctant to get a MacBook that only has USB-C ports on it. Yeah. Hello, Zed. Hello, Halil from Turkey. Can I say hi to Daniel Moran? He's feeling sick. Daniel Moran, I hope that you get better, get lots of rest, drink lots of fluids, and yeah, I hope you get better. Hello, Mataus. Hello, Kung. Hello, Super Chicken Burritos, who is a fellow full-stack dev. That's good. And hello, Fun. Hello, Neon, who's catching me live. That's good. And hello, Vale from Italy. Hopefully you're staying safe there in Italy. Oh, Exac from Italy as well. Yeah. Starthlex says, I just got a Pluralsight subscription to learn hooks. Well, This is live. I make mistakes, so that money that you spent on that Pluralsight subscription is probably well spent. You can feel free to ask any questions related to React or JSX or hooks, but this is by no means some official course that you should pay money for. This is just us. We're just hanging out. First, what's up, ATD? It's like waiting for my favorite show. That's nice. I'm live. To do is a list of, how do I translate to do? What's a more general term for to do? A list of things that need to be done. A task list. Hopefully that's a good enough different way of talking about it. But typically whenever people are learning a checklist, I like that, thank you D-Trouble. People are learning front-end frameworks or learning programming, a checklist is one of the first things that you build to learn the mechanics of that thing that you are learning. So that's what we're gonna do today. And hello, Andrew. Yeah, we're live. Howdy, client telephone. Do I have any ideas regarding WebRTC? I actually do. Yeah, I know quite a bit about WebRTC. Maybe I'll do some streams about it in the near future, but yeah, WebRTC is really cool. You can do peer-to-peer chat and peer-to-peer video calls. How much is the data scientist salary in your country? I have no idea. Hello, Gurpreet. Hello, Simi. Hello, Carlos. I'm doing good. Hello, Dana Chu. Hello, Midstick. Thanks for the follow, Bayana Pro. Manoloito. Hello. Enable the drop gain's enabled now. I didn't have it on the second screen. Hello, Florin. How are you doing? What's up? What's up? Quick shout out. I guess today's the last day, but there is 7 days, 7 websites, which Florin started, and I'm sure he'll keep allowing submissions. But basically, this is a challenge for you to build 1 website a day for 7 days, and you can submit them here. So I'll share this. And it's a good way to keep you occupied in these times when you might not know what to do and you're stuck at home. Oh, today's the 3rd day? Okay. I thought it started on Monday, but that's good to know. So you can still technically get in there, and like I mentioned, I think he's gonna leave the site up even after it's over, so yeah. And hello, Fion. React router DOM. No, I think I'm gonna avoid all the extra bits that you typically need with the React app, just to focus on the basics. That's the plan, anyways. We'll get started in about 5 minutes. But yeah, I'm not gonna do routing. I'm not gonna do testing. This is like, what is React for people that know absolutely nothing, and you should know a little bit of JavaScript, but that's really the only prerequisite for this. And hello, Andrew. Oh, thank you, Crow. Say my name. Fion. Hello, Domenico. Hello, Fion. Well, yeah, so this is, I'm streaming on YouTube as well, and immediately after the stream is over, it's available to watch on YouTube. And all of the code will be on GitHub. If you look below the video, both on Twitch and YouTube, there's a link to this repo. This is where I'm going to push up all of the code. And if someone reminds me, I might actually set up a VS Code live share so that you can see the code in real time while I'm doing it. So remind me to do that. All the cool kids are doing hooks. Yeah, honestly, hooks make React bearable. Like, React, in my opinion, is very cumbersome, and hooks make it a little less cumbersome. So I like hooks. Hee. Hello, Jonathan. Please explain use effect. I will try to. The thing is, this is also a very basic app that we're gonna build. We're not calling any APIs, so we don't necessarily need to use effect. However, at the end, if we have time, and I haven't talked about it yet, remind me. Hello, Raj. Hello, Ak. Hello, Franz. Hello, Dope Boy Prax. It's been a while. Welcome back. I'm in Denver, Colorado. That's where I am. Good morning, Terminal Bash. Hey, Kevin. Got sent home early, working from home for the first time. Cool. Love your hair. Oh, thank you, Zaman. I was having, like, weird hair issues. There's something, I don't know. It's okay this morning. Hello, Renzo from Peru. Hello, Murdoch. It's been a while. Welcome. I guess if you can call never leaving my house quarantine. I guess that technically is quarantine. I'm not sick though, but I am staying home. I am not leaving. I am a software consultant. So I write custom software, and I'm a full stack engineer and an architect and the chief engineer at my company. So I architect large projects and build them mostly with full stack JavaScript. And as a consultant, my company gets business from other companies that are looking to build custom software. So I get to work on a lot of new projects. I don't work at a product company. I could potentially talk about the context API. Yeah. So if you look at the checklist that's linked in the description, these are all the things that we're going to cover. And basically what we're going to do first is we're going to build the entire app in one single component. And there's Shaggy. Thank you, Shaggy. Coding Garden. We're going to build the app in just one big component. And then after we've done that, we're going to take it and break it up into smaller components. So we'll talk about what components are. We'll talk about how to pass props to components. Yeah, we'll build multiple components. From there, the next step would be to use something like the context API, where you can lift all of your state up to the top, and instead of having to pass props, you can use the use context hook instead. But that's really like next steps, and we can talk about that after we get the basic app built. What are my views on using Lerna to manage React client and a Node server? I think if they share certain things, if you're using TypeScript in both, it's very useful because you could create a shared interfaces library that both your front end and back end use, and that's what Lerna is good for. It's a monorepo tool, and it allows you to share code between projects. But if your front end and your back end don't really have anything in common and you don't need to share any code, it might not make as much sense to use Lerna. Casual Gameplay with the donation. Thank you so much, Casual Gameplay. It's been a while since I've seen you in the chat. Much appreciated. And Casual Gameplay says, thank you for your stream. Well, thank you for watching, and thanks everyone for being here. Hello, Devistry from the Netherlands. I'm doing okay. Hopefully everyone else is doing okay. Good morning, Tim. Hello, Jan. I will just tell my boss that I'm learning for work. Exactly. Yeah. So anybody that's watching right now and you're supposed to be working, you're just learning. You know, charge it to the company learning fund. How interesting is the project for you at your work on a scale of 1 to 10? Right now, my project is super interesting. I would call it a 10. 10 out of 10. Hello, Paul. Well, thank you, Shivam. Hello, Rabin. Nice. Hello, Kavari. Superb voice with tone. Well, thank you. I don't put that much work into it. So I have like a mixer and a few like some settings going on, but that's about it. Hey, no worries, Florin. And if anyone wants to check out Florin, definitely check out his YouTube channel. Is it just Florin Pop? Yeah, there we go. Let's see what he's going to be streaming on. Philo landing page. Cool. So Florin has been doing challenges for Front End Mentor, which is a website that has a lot of different front end challenges. And today he's building a landing page. So that's pretty sweet. If you want to check that out, go check out his channel. Well, thank you, Janatine. And Dano with the super chat. Let's see what you have to say. Just €1. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Not required. Always appreciated. Yeah, Happy Phone is building a multiplayer game in JavaScript Canvas. Wow. For the coronavirus sneezing stuff. I think it is. Yeah, that's super interesting. Does Twitch have any special emotes like that? Oh, hello, Christian. Welcome. It's super funny. Oh, check it out. There's all these new YouTube emotes. I had no idea. I'm gonna need to integrate these into my chat manager. They're catching up, Twitch. They're starting to do like custom emotes, globally available custom emotes. Wow, hand sanitizer. That's awesome. Yeah, and my chat overlay doesn't know about these yet. I have to write the custom code to add those, but not today. All right, let's get started. Let's say hello to anyone else. Hello, Sandeep from Boston. Hello, Katoli. Welcome. Acid Spark, even though Vue is better. Yes. The thing is, I love Vue.js, but I write React on a daily basis. And yeah, that's the thing. SuperTux says, any thoughts on XState and state machines for React development? XState is really cool if you haven't heard of it. What I like about it is that it is based on principles that have been around for a very long time, like before front-end frameworks, before someone even uttered the word front-end framework. It's based on, let's see what it's called. The SC-XML specification, I think it is. But it's the specification that talks about like finite state machines, and it's a very general programming thing, and then XState has implemented it in JavaScript so that you can use it with other front-end frameworks. It's pretty cool. I like that you can generate charts with it. I haven't used it personally, but I've at least read about it, and yeah, it's cool. Hello, Arcatech. Hello, Taylor. I'm Pikachu says, I'm switching from YouTube to Twitch. Thank you. Murdoch with the tip. Let's see what they have to say. Thank you so much. Not much, but wanted to say thank you. Watching all your vids has helped me with Node Electron application development. That's good to hear, Murdoch. Thanks for the super chat. Much appreciated. Hello, Sandeep. Hello, Percelsior. Oh, I missed your message. I'm sorry. I think it said long time no see, but hello. I really need a way to undo that. Hello, Harjot. Hello, Joundi. Hello, Liam. Hello, Medi. Hello, Yogo. Hello, Free Debugs. Hello, Anani Smooth. Hello, Ali. Hello, Sean. Hello, Shashika. Hello. Good morning, Levi. It's been a while. Welcome. What is this Twitch clip, Andrew? Clips.twitch.tv. I have to be very careful when I'm loading links. Are we about to get rickrolled? Get ready, everyone. I will just tell my boss that I'm learning. Oh. Exactly. Yeah. So anybody that's watching right now and you're supposed to be working, you're just learning. You know, charge it. Cool. Thank you, Andrew. Hello, Josh. Hello, Pachkike. Hello, Saswat. Hello, Splart. Hello, Rasha. Hello, Noah. Hello, Din. You have 10 seconds to say hello, and then I'm gonna have to get started. Hey, J. Webb. What's up? It's been a while. Hopefully you're doing well. Hello, Bowdy. Hello, OG Jake. Hello, Shaggy. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Jeed. Hello, Javis. Hello, Doc. What's up, Doc? How to deal with the situation when the project at work is boring. I know the feeling. Talk to your boss, because that is yerba mate. Yeah, this is my favorite drink. Hashtag not sponsored, but I mean, this is a good drink. I have a lot of them. Hello, Gons. Hello, Tio. Hello, I'm Pikachu. Hello, a random Tim. Hello, Rick Astley. Hello, Omar. Hello, Saswat. Hello, Javis. Hello, Wolfgang. Oh yeah, so if you were watching the 2 streams ago, there was a kitten that came into my window and was like meowing at the end of the stream, but we found their home. I posted on this app called Nextdoor, which I don't know if it's in other countries, but in the US you can install Nextdoor and talk to the people that live around you. And so we posted on there, and at like 8 p.m. someone messaged and said, hey, that's my cat, and they live like 2 blocks away. So yeah, the cat got home. Hello, Faithful. Hello, Sezjin. Hello, Sandeep. Hello, Gigi. It's not beer, no. Hello, Kapir. It's the morning for me. I have to start working in like an hour. I can't drink a beer. Hello, Victor. I might, yeah, I'll try to stream Ionic Framework, because that's what I'm building the Coding Garden mobile app with. So yeah. I'm a full stack developer, but I don't like front end. Can I survive only coding backend, Node.js, and REST APIs? Yeah, but if that's the case, then I wouldn't call yourself a full stack developer, because if you call yourself a full stack developer, people are going to expect that you build front end apps as well. But being a backend developer is absolutely a career that you can have. So yeah. Well, thank you, the thinker. Why don't you just say hello? Good morning. Hello. Want to thank you for your full stack tutorial, specifically the message board one. Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, a lot of people find that useful, especially if you're new to coding. So yeah. All right, you're very welcome. All right, let's do it. Thanks for the follow, Schnittlauch. Thanks for the follow, Zephyrium. Thanks for the follow, Messer. And thanks for the follow, Catharos Bellis. Let's get started. So if you look in the description, both on Twitch and YouTube, there's a link to this to-do list about what we're going to do. And like I mentioned, we're basically going to build the very same app that I built close to 2 years ago, but we're not going to use any classes. We're going to use nothing but hooks, and we're going to talk about the basics of React. So we're going to talk about JSX, the virtual DOM, all that good stuff. Please don't you leave YouTube. The top bar is semi-transparent. I have no idea. I think that's just built in. I'm not on the latest Mac OS yet. Okay. Actually, is slow mode enabled on YouTube? I will not use styled components, but we can talk about it. I mentioned we're going to try to keep this as beginner friendly as possible. I had another donation. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I missed it. This donation came from Abden Dante, who says, and it was $5. Thank you very much. When I broke my ankle in January, I watched one of your streams almost every day for the next 8 weeks. Finally, I get to see you live and I can show some appreciation. Keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you so much, Abundante. Much appreciated. But yeah, how do I turn slow mode on YouTube? I thought it was on by default. Stream settings. Cool. See you later, Acid Spark. Stay safe out there. Hopefully it's a virtual appointment. Why is this always so hard to find? Here it is. I found it. All right. You can only send a message once every 60 seconds. Oh, okay. Best of luck. Stay safe out there. And I will now disable the drop game. There, it's gone. Okay. This stream will be available, and this lesson will be available on YouTube immediately after this. Let's go. Let's do this. Could I use this to-do app to manage its own development to-do list? Potentially, but it won't be done until the end. Okay, so like I mentioned, the link to this stuff is in the description. First up, what is React? If you go to reactjs.org, you can see that it calls itself a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. So if you're new to web development and front-end development, you've probably heard of front-end frameworks. React is one of these front-end frameworks. It's a library, meaning it's just built with JavaScript, and you can use it in your JavaScript applications to potentially build user interfaces faster than if you were to just use plain old JavaScript without React. It adds a lot of concepts on top of front-end development. It's declarative. It allows you to create components. It has a state management built into it. So these are a lot of things that you don't necessarily have to do when you're building front-end applications, but as you start to build larger and more complex front-end applications, you would want something like this. It is in the same sphere as things like AngularJS. So AngularJS is also a front-end framework for building applications. Oh no, this is Angular. This is the old one. The new one, Angular.io, this is the one, the latest one that people are using. There's also Vue.js, which is my favorite one, but I know a lot about the different ones, and I can build using the different ones. And there's a lot of other ones out there, but basically that's what React is. It's for building front-end applications. Now, React itself calls itself a library. It doesn't call itself a framework. React is actually a very small library all about building user interfaces. Some of these other frameworks I talked about have a lot of other stuff built in, like routing and more complex state management and styled components and stuff like that. With React, you have to choose or find other libraries to use with React to do that. It's a very basic library. And so that's what React is. We build front-end websites with it. Front-end framework? Oh, okay. Christian is saying, how complicated would you say a website has to be for a front-end framework to be an advantage? It doesn't really have to be that complex. The thing about using a front-end framework is when you structure your application in this way, it can scale more easily in that your application can get more complex. You can talk to more APIs. You can deal with more user interaction without having a bunch of spaghetti code. Now, it's absolutely possible to write React and it be spaghetti code, but the things built into it allow you to avoid that and build for a way to not have your code be that way. So really, you see people building really even basic applications with like React and Vue and Angular. So it's up to you. It's really, do you want to, I guess another point being, if you're working on a team and everyone's using the same front-end framework, you have to all work within the same paradigm. Whereas if you're just using jQuery or just using vanilla JavaScript, there's a lot of different ways you can do things. And so if you're working on a team, it could be an issue in communicating code. So yeah, if your site has more than one page, you can still do just one-page sites with it. Yeah. Is ASP.NET better than Node.js or vice versa? It's totally up to you. Recently, not recently, a few years ago, ASP.NET got open sourced. So similar to how Node.js is open source, the ASP.NET is. It's really up to you. I like Node.js because I can use JavaScript on the back end just like I do on the front end. I don't know. what do I think about Polymer? It's pretty cool. This is a framework from Google for building web components. I haven't built anything big with it, but I think it's pretty cool. We're starting. We're talking about React. Cool. And so I do ask, if you have any questions or comments, please keep them related to the topic that we're talking about right now. And thanks for the follow, Hexadonut. Yeah, Aziz is saying Angular is more for enterprise applications. You do see that, and it has a lot more opinions than React does. So yeah. Do I have any idea why my useEffect call runs twice? Because you did not pass a array as the second parameter. So with useEffect, you need to pass in what are the dependencies. And whenever those dependencies change, useEffect will run again. If you want that thing to only run once, you can pass it an empty array. Hello, Hygor. Thanks for the follow, WubbyWub. Depobam made an app in React today. That's good. I like React, but is there a way to use hooks and component did mount together? No. So if you're using hooks, you cannot use them in class components, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so that is React. That's the basics of React. Let me know if you have any other questions, but we are going to move on to what is JSX. So JSX stands for, is it JavaScript XML? I actually don't even know what it stands for, but JSX is actually a custom language that was created for React. And basically, it's a combination of HTML and JavaScript all in one place. Well, thank you, VJ. And so JSX allows you to create your React apps and create your components all using JavaScript, but you will see some HTML style syntax. Now, when we start talking about the basics, and we talk about the virtual DOM, we'll talk about why we would need something like this. And the thing to note is that when you're writing React applications, you don't necessarily have to use JSX. Your JSX code gets turned into something like this. So built into React is this function, react.createElement. And basically this function will create a virtual DOM tree that can decide whether or not the page should update. So this would actually be very cumbersome to write, right? If every single HTML element on your page, you had to say react.createElement, pass in the tag name, pass in the content, that would be very cumbersome. So with JSX, you can write your code like this, and then at the end of the day, it gets turned into something like this. Let's look at a more complex render function. Let's see. Yeah, so for example, this render function on the React homepage has like a div, and inside of that's an h3, and inside of that's a label. If we turn off JSX, this is what you would have had to write if you did not have JSX. Create an element div, and then there's a nested element inside of it, and then a nested element inside of that. So JSX is really just a handy way of writing React components and React render functions without having to say react.createElement over and over and over again. So that's what JSX is. That's about all I'm going to say about it. And we'll just learn about it as we use it. And also, I'm going to skip over this, what is the virtual DOM, because once we're creating an app, I can talk about and show an example of what's actually happening here. So let's create a React app. We are in this directory. Okay, so I'm in this folder, and I'm going to use create React app to create my React app and start building things and adding hooks and stuff like that. Okay, so we can say npx create React app. I think you pass in the name of the folder. Let's call this to do app and hit enter. So with this, you don't have to install create React app globally. You can just generate the app. It will run it instantly and then generate the application. You can check out the Create React App website to see other options. Like you can generate an app with TypeScript, different things like that. But we're just going to do a very basic app. So how to turn a React app into a progressive web application. It's actually pretty interesting because when you generate a React app, it includes a service worker that caches your files. And that's technically a progressive web app. So yeah. At work, we use higher order components for the data layer using Saga to help manipulate the data, and we use pure components for the UI. What are your thoughts on, what does SOC stand for? With small to medium-sized projects. Did you mean HOC? But I sort of agree. I recently found ezpz. which is a state management library for React. And this is a library that makes React bearable for me, in that it handles having like global state. It's basically like a replacement for Redux, but it has a lot of cool built-in hooks. But this is what I would use, and I've found myself, you may not like this, but using a library like this, instead of passing props, pretty much anywhere that I need to access the store, I just use the hook that connects directly to the store. I'm not passing a bunch of props around. It's a really great way to manage that. And you can do very similar things to sagas in that you can listen for when other things happen and do something in response. But yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah. Would I recommend learning React in order to learn JS? No, so I would say you need to learn JavaScript first. You need to learn the basics of syntax in JavaScript, the basics of creating functions and variables and manipulating variables and calling functions. You need to know those things before you can jump into React. Yeah. Not to be confused with script files for After Effects, which also have the JSX extension. Oh, that's interesting. One question, why do people like hooks that much? For me, it makes it a lot, your components look simpler, I think. It's less code. HTML in JavaScript, JSX. Yeah, thanks for the follow, the Get Cracked. Thanks for the follow, the Spirin Nuts. Hello, this is Tona. Yeah, I'm staying home. I am not leaving. Thoughts on Next.js? It's cool. It's server-side rendered React, but it's cool. We will not use Redux today. It's going to be basic React. For Yarn users. Ah, very cool. Hello, Barkoga. We're writing code now. There's a lot of people. We gotta talk. We gotta answer questions. But yeah. But now you can use hooks with Redux, and that's the power. Cool. In talking about not having to like pass props and stuff like that. What is hooks? Explain in 10 words. We're not there yet. We gotta write our basic React app. Okay, so I just did the create React app thing, and that created this folder called To Do App. Let's see what is inside. So if we look inside of here, there's quite a few things, and there is a source directory. The source directory also has quite a few things, and you can see index.js. So index.js is our entry point. This is how the whole React app gets started, and if you're new to JavaScript, there might actually be more things in here that you're not necessarily familiar with. So with modern React, we're using the import and export syntax, which is a way of putting your code into multiple files. Yeah, so that's a thing. You should learn about import-export syntax. And then you see this weird thing where like we're importing a CSS file inside of a JavaScript file. What's going on there? This actually isn't JavaScript. This is Webpack. Webpack is a tool for bundling your front-end applications. And so this gets spun up and ready to go with Webpack. And Webpack knows what to do when it sees an import for a CSS file. And if we look at our package JSON, we can see that there are a couple of scripts. There is a start script that starts up your React app. There's a build script, which builds it for deploying to the web, testing, and then there's ejecting. So you can see by default, there's not actually that much in this folder, right? It's just a source directory with some files in it, but there isn't a Webpack configuration or anything like that. So when you use Create React App, all of the Webpack configuration is hidden behind the scenes of this React scripts library. And so you actually can't modify that directly. But if you did want to modify the Webpack config, you could eject it. But honestly, we don't really even need to know that much about Webpack right now to get started. We can see this react-dom.render. This is what gets our React app up and ready to go. And you can see right here is just some regular plain old DOM querying. So we're saying get element by ID root, and that is where our React application is going to live. If we look in the public folder, there's an index.html, and this is the file that will hold our entire React app. But if we scroll down, we can see right here, there's this div with an ID root. So our entire React application is going to live inside of this one little div. Now, that doesn't mean we can't have multiple pages. If you've ever heard the term SPA or single page application, this is what we mean by that. It's a single page because our entire app lives in this one div, but we can use JavaScript to dynamically change what's inside of this div to make it look like there are multiple pages. But at the end of the day, our entire React app lives in that one little div. You can see some other special things in this index.html file. They have comments, but basically Webpack also uses this HTML file to dynamically set your public URL and all that good stuff. SPA, single page application. So that's the basics of the React app. And like I mentioned, index.js is our entry point. And so we can see right here, it imports in app. And if we look in the folder, app is our very first component. So this is a component in React, and this allows us to actually render something on the page. So before we talk about any more things, let's start it up. So we can see in the package.json, there's this start script, and that will actually start up our Webpack dev server, and we can look at our React app. So let's go into the folder. We'll do npm run, no, we'll just do npm start, because npm start will call React script start, which will actually start up the Webpack dev server. Cool. And typically this will run on port 3000, but I have like several other things running on my machine, so it's going to run on port 3006. But for you, it's going to run on port 3000, most likely, if you don't have anything else running. Slow down. I have a lot to cover, and there's a lot of chats, so I have to go as fast as possible while also explaining everything that I can. And if you watch the VOD, you can also slow down my voice if I'm talking too fast. Hello, Quran. Welcome. How do I use React hooks and Express together? Those are two totally separate concepts. So React hooks would be in your front end, and Express is your back end. You could technically use the use effect hook to make an API request to your Express backend, but that's basically how they would integrate. Can we use Tailwind instead of Bootstrap? We're not going to use any CSS framework. We're going to keep it super simple. Elbow cough. Oh, hello, Andres. It's been a while. How do I get green colors for my icons in VS Code? It's a part of the theme. Yeah, somebody did the exclamation mark theme thing earlier, and that is the theme I'm using, which changes the colors of the icons, which I like. It looks cool. All right, let's keep going. I'm here. Oh, thank you, Wubby. It's pretty involuntary. Cool. So we created a React app. Like I said, there's a lot going on here. It's hiding the details of Webpack. You don't really have to worry about that right now, but here we go. So we can see that the React app started up. We see this nice little logo. It's telling us what we need to edit. And one cool thing about this and the way it sets it up is it has hot reloading. So if we change the files, it'll automatically refresh the page, and we don't have to do that manually. So if I change this right here, that just says hello world, and I save it, and I go back to the browser, the page has already updated, and I don't need to refresh it. So this is the Webpack hot reload dev server. It's great. Okay. Before we go any further, I'm going to get rid of all the extra junk. So there is this app.css, which has set some styles. I'm just going to delete that. Gone. There is this test file. I'm going to delete that. Who's cringing right now when I delete that test file? We're not going to worry about tests today. This is going to be super basic intro to React. We'll keep the index.css. This is where we're going to have our basic styles. I'm going to get rid of that React logo, which is that SVG. And now it's super basic. We just have one component, app.js. We do have to fix this file, though. So you can see that it was actually importing that SVG into the file. Again, this is a Webpack thing. JavaScript doesn't know how to import CSS or SVG files. Webpack takes care of that. But we don't need that. We don't need the CSS file. And we're going to make a super basic render function that just has an h1 that says hello world. We're going to get rid of that class. Here we go. Super basic React component. That's all we get. Cringe. And I believe... Oh, yeah, and then our index.css, let's get rid of all these styles, too. So, by default, it should be a very basic web page with just an h1. That's all we should see, right? There we go. Hello, world. So this is our first React app, and it's super basic, right? I mean, you probably would just use HTML if you wanted to build this, and you probably wouldn't use React, but it's going to get better than that. Now, I can talk about really quick what we're looking at here. So this is known as a functional component. If you've looked at other React code, you might have seen like a class component. So you might have seen class app extends react.component. And then inside of here, you define your render function and all that good stuff. This functional component is a way of creating a React component without using the class keyword. It works in a single function. And whatever this function returns is essentially the render function. This is what will be rendered by that component. Use a span. And thanks for the follow, Bozier. I can use browser as a tab in VS Code as a tab extension. I like to switch windows. HTML is for normies. You all are city. Okay. Remove .git. Good call. So right now, because whenever you create React app, it actually creates its own .git folder. So you can see inside of the to-do app we have, or I thought. Oh, no. It's not that. It's that I haven't git ignored node modules. But we should absolutely add a git ignore. Weird, right? I think that's why. It's not ignoring the node modules, but my git ignore technically should just be that. Right? Weird. Maybe I need to git ignore, because so here's what I'm working with. My Git repo is at this root folder, and then I put to-do app inside of it. But this is where the Git file is. Let's just create a git ignore right here, and it should ignore all node modules. It also should do that by default. Maybe I need to restart VS Code. There we go. That's better. Now it doesn't have those thousands of changes. Cool. Why don't I use WebStorm? Because it costs money. VS Code is free. Yeah, Ember is saying that's been happening for them too. Thanks for the follow, Dubik. Thanks for the follow, Norden. Coronogyrus. // I like that. Yeah, so // would be any nested folder. I don't know why the nested git ignore didn't work for that. I don't know. I digress. Let's write some code. And thanks for the follow, 3zodev. Okay, so this is a functional component. Now you could actually use arrow functions as well. And so let's actually rewrite this as an arrow function. So I'm going to say const app is a nice little arrow function that just immediately returns this JSX. We're going to do this. And we'll comment this out. Now, these are two different ways to write the exact same component. And I'm using the fact that with arrow functions, if you have no return keyword and the function is technically a single expression, it will just return that thing. So this is still the same component, and it should still work. Yep. We refresh the page, no errors, we're good to go. So it still works. And this is just another way of writing it. Today, at least for this component right now, we're going to write it like this. So we're going to write it so that we have an arrow function that returns our JSX like that. And the reason we're going to do this is because we're going to be using all of our effects. Or sorry, all of our hooks right here. This is where all of our hooks go. And if we have a component that only returns the JSX, we couldn't have hooks inside of there. So this is how we will be writing our application. How do I know when to use const or let? You use const if you know that you're never going to reassign a variable. You use let if that variable needs to be reassigned. Technically, I could use let right here. It would still work. App still works. Page refreshes. We're good to go. But because I'm never reassigning app, I can use const. There's just a lot of people watching. There's 284 people on YouTube and 117 on Twitch. So if even one person spams, it gets out of hand. And we're about to talk about hooks right now. Let versus var. So basically, in modern JavaScript development, you should not use var at all. If you know that you're going to reassign something, use let. Both const and let are block scoped, whereas var is function scoped or global scoped. Spam incoming. But yeah, basically you should never use var. And the idea being that when JavaScript was first created, they were trying to make it very easy to use, and so weird things were happening. Like if you left off the var keyword, it would automatically create that variable anyways. It was very forgiving, but we are serious developers and we know what we're doing now for the most part, and so we have to. And there are rules that say we have to actually put the var on there, and even then, there are other implications of using var. So either use let or const. Look at me. Yeah, hey, Jan. If you do exclamation mark theme, you can get a link to my VS Code theme. React Core is full of vars. They're probably going to be updating it. Checkmate now. I have not used a var in a year, 2 years. I don't know. We're building a very basic React app and talking about all the concepts as we go along. Yeah. Hello. Okay. Did I miss how the compiler knows the difference between text and code inside the JSX? Just a matter of the wrapping. So with JSX, you can basically have HTML elements anywhere. I could do this. I could say const header, and then I could literally just put an H1 like this. Wow. And I could put a semicolon right there. So the JSX compiler, it just knows that whenever it sees a less than sign, we're starting HTML elements. Now, if we actually want to have expressions inside of the JSX, I'll show you how to do that. But for the most part, if you're just creating the elements, that's how you can do it. I like to use, if it's a multi-line JSX, I definitely like to use parentheses because that way we can have consistent indentation. Yeah, it's totally up to you, and you will get like a syntax error if you do something weird. But for the most part, you can just put JSX anywhere. Thanks for the follow, KidCube. Thanks for the follow, Tony Clifton. Is there an intro to Vue and Angular stream inbound? I might do like a front end face off. Let's create a language called TSX. We created, and hello, I hate Kasha. We use create React app. We have a very basic app. We ripped out everything except for this one basic component, and now we're just breaking it down. And thanks for the follow, Arpan. Okay, so this is our React component. Let's look at our README. So now we want to show a message from state on the page. So I'm gonna do this. I am going to, first up, I'm just gonna create a variable. Let's we'll create a variable called name, and I'm going to put CJ in there. And then how do I get this variable inside of the JSX? Well, we use curly braces. So anytime you want a JavaScript expression inside of your tags, you can use curly braces. And so if I do single curly braces and then put name right there, this should say, hello, CJ. Great. And so basically, this render function can take into account the variable. It can resolve that expression to know that variable means CJ, and that's what actually gets rendered on the page. If we look at the DOM, it's just an H1, and we can see that it has like multiple text elements inside of here, but that's great. This is our basic app. But what if we want things to change? That's where state would come into play. So right now, the name really isn't changing. It's just a variable. It's just there. But what if we wanted to have an input where the user could type their name and then we change what name is displayed on the page? In that case, we would need some sort of application state. We would want to keep track of what has the user entered into the input form. Yeah, and someone just asked, you get asks, how do you escape the curly brace? I believe... Oh, like this. This is my initial thought. You do curly braces and then put single quotes inside of it with a curly brace. That would do it. Because basically it says evaluate this expression, and then this expression evaluates to a string. Yeah. All that for a header. It's gonna get more complex. Not double braces? Yeah, no, so double braces is known as handlebars, but that's not what we do in React. Such convenient escaping. Okay, but let's make this dynamic, right? Before we get into actually like building a to-do app, let's make this dynamic. I want to have an input form, and I want the user to be able to type their name, and then we'll say hello name. So let's get that going. I'm going to use this CSS here. I created this CSS a long time ago, and all it does is make things look nice by default. So we're going to put this in our index.css. We're going to save it, and by default, we get a nice sans serif font with an 80% width body. It's great. Look at us, we're doing it. So, and this is the CSS if you wanna use it. Now, let's do this. We want an input on the page, so we're just gonna add a form. We're gonna add an input right here. Oh yeah, and I'll show really quick one of the caveats of JSX, and then we're also gonna have a label that just says enter your name. Let's see what we get. Cool, so we have this nice little input box. I want to be able to put my name in, and my name should appear down below. Real quick, let's talk about self-closing components. So in JSX, every single element must have a closing element. So every element needs to have the closing one. Now, if you're using just regular HTML, you could actually write it like this, and it would still work because an input is known as a self-closing tag. But with JSX, it's expecting a closing tag. It doesn't know what to do. So typically what you can do is just do self-closing like that, and it will work. It's great. And so that's our input. Now, we want whatever the user types in to show up down below. We can't just update this variable. That wouldn't work. Part of the render cycle is letting React know when things update so that it knows to update the page. So for this, we are going to use the XState hook. But before that, let's listen for when the value of this input changes. So on this input, we can add an onChange property. So every single DOM event that is available in JavaScript is available as an attribute in your JSX, and you can assign this a function. So we can pass in a function that gets called when the value of the input changes. So I'm just going to do this inline right here. We're going to get access to the event, and then I'm just going to log the event. And now every time I type into this input, we should see something logged to the console. Cool, so it's working. We're listening for when the user is typing. One thing to note is that these things are known as synthetic events. So in React, they aren't like a real DOM event. It's actually like a wrapped synthetic event. And the reason being is because of the virtual DOM and all that stuff that we don't really need to worry about right now. But just know that this isn't exactly a DOM event. It's a synthetic event. Okay, now, if we look at event.target, event.target is the element that this event is for. And this element is an input, so it has a value property. So if we log event.target.value, we can see that every time I type in the input, we're logging that value change. So what I want to do is I want to keep track of this value so that React knows about it. And this is where our useState hook comes into play. So this allows us to create some state for the component and then update it dynamically. So here's what I will do. I will say our name and our set name is equal to useState with the initial value of CJ. Now, useState returns an array that has two values inside of it. The first value is the value of that state item. And the second thing is a function that can change that value and React will know about it. So right here, I'm passing in the initial state, meaning the name value right here is going to be set to CJ by default. So if I save this, we still see hello CJ, because in our JSX, we're accessing the name right there. But if I want to change the name, I can call setName. And we can do that right here. So we saw that event.target.value has the actual value of the input. And what we can do is we can take that, call the setName function, which will then update our state variable name. And then our function will actually, our component will re-render. So let's do this. We're going to say set name, and we're going to pass in event.target.value. Okay, let's watch it happen. So if I type C, it changes to C. CJ. Hello. Wow. Wow. So let's see what's happening here. Initially the value is CJ. So when the page loads, the value is just CJ. But whenever I type into the input, we're changing that value. And React is actually kind of, it's dumb. React is dumb. The only way React knows to re-render the function, basically to recall this JSX to show the latest value of name, is if something happens like set name. So under the hood, set name is telling React, hey, we just updated state, meaning we need to re-render this component. So that's basically how this is all working. Hello, Mint Jim. Welcome. Cool. One other thing that we would want to do is to bind the value of the input to name as well. So right now it's technically working. We see that the input starts off with no value, and then we can get the value from it. But what we should do is we should also say that the value of this input is set to name. And so by doing that, whatever the name value is will be the actual value of the input. And question to you in the chat, when I go back to the browser, what is going to be inside of that input by default? What will I see? What text will be in the input? I think my light is blinking. It's weird. I don't know. CJ, yeah, it'll be CJ. Because by default, name has the value CJ, and so when the page first renders, everyone's saying my name, that's great. When the page first renders, the value of the input will be CJ. So, look at that. CJ is just popped up in the box. Wow. Okay, great. So this is the basics of the useState function. I think I need to replace that light. It's like blinking. Let me know if things look weird to you all, because it's kind of weird. My side eye. Thanks for the follows, yucks. Yeah, I'll use live share. Let me set that up. Oh, let me hide my screen real quick while I log in. Let's turn the drop game on. Woo! Yeah, so this video is going to be available right here on YouTube immediately after we're done here. It looks okay. Okay, I might I might have a seizure. It's like blinking really, really fast. I mean, I'm not prone to seizures, so I'll be fine. Yeah, I have a computer science degree. We're using hooks in this app. Ba-da-ba-da. Okay, here we go. CS with CJ. Yeah, if you want to join this session, you can go to this link here. It is read-only, but you will be able to see me writing code in real time. Okay. Yeah, so that's a good point. And this is another thing about like using all of the latest React stuff here is at the end of the day, you really are just using, like, a lot of this is just JavaScript. So knowing the difference between an arrow function that doesn't have the parentheses versus with the parentheses, like, technically they work in exactly the same way. Like, look, our app is going to be no different. Wow, still works. But that's just a JavaScript thing. So yeah. And is anyone joining us? Oh, there's Christian. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What should I know to start learning React? You should know the basics of JavaScript. So you can see there are things here that are not React. So like this arrow function, that's just plain old JavaScript. Export default, that's just plain old JavaScript. Import, that's JavaScript. This right here is destructuring, that's JavaScript. So a lot of this is just JavaScript. The extra things on top of it are like useState and the fact that we can use what looks like HTML in here. That's the special React stuff. Let's do some reformatting here. Well, that's good to hear, Chester. How does React help in a faster development of a website? It just allows you to structure things in a more sane way. Instead of writing a bunch of imperative code for like updating menus and making requests to APIs, it allows you to structure your code in a better way. So that's the main thing. And thanks for the follow, Saboteur. Why does destructuring with brackets instead of curly braces? So the thing is that useState actually returns an array. Let's do this. Let's call it name stuff. And then to get access to the name, well, actually, you tell me. So now that I am no longer destructuring the return value of useState, how can I use it in my component? Like here, so like name and set name. How do I actually call those things? They don't exist anymore. They're not actual values. Yeah, bracket 0. So the way destructuring works, and let's show it in the same way. Name, set name, like that. You got it. So now this returns an array. So if I want to access the name, I can say name stuff at 0. And then right here, I can say name stuff at 0. And then this is weird for anyone that is new to JavaScript. This would be name stuff at 1. And because name stuff at 1 is a function, I actually can invoke it and put the curly braces after it like that. But this should still work. Wow, still works. But the reason being is that useState is very simple. It just returns an array that has 2 values inside of it. And so in ES 2015, this is known as destructuring. So it's a simpler way of writing it. And so if we wanted to make this a little bit easier, we could say name equals name stuff at 0, and set name equals name stuff at 1. And then inside of our JSX, we can just access them by what we were calling them earlier. And this can be set name. Like that. And this should also work. I would probably won't talk about useEffect because typically you need that when you're like talking to APIs. And we're just talking about the basics of React, not really talking to APIs or anything like that. Cool. Get rid of that. Awesome. So this little thing right here is known as destructuring, and all it does is what I showed on those 3 lines of code. So this 1 line of code is doing what these 3 lines of code would have done, and that's why you see like useState written like this. Okay. useEffect is like created in Vue. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different than that because you can write an effect so that it gets called anytime the dependencies change. So it's almost like a watcher in a way. But okay, those are the basics of hooks, and this is a hook. So someone was asking earlier, what are hooks? These are new things in React, and we have things like useState, we have things like useCallback, we have things like useEffect. Now, in the README, I talked about or like what is the virtual DOM? Let's talk about this, okay? So if we watch the elements on the page, so we can see here's div ID root, here's a div, here's a form, and here's an h1. Now, whenever I start typing here, let's think about what happens, right? I press the key, onChange gets called, setName gets called with the latest value, and then this will need to re-render, right? This is going to have to be updated on the page. So essentially, React will run this entire return value and then compare it against the previous return value, and then only update the things that need to be updated. So if you watch in the DOM here as I type, you'll notice that the value updated and then the h1 updated. And we can see that that is updating here. Wow. And so this is the idea behind the scenes here is the virtual DOM. So with React, when the state updates, it's going to call your render function again. So basically, it's going to need to rerun this, and it has the latest value. And then it looks at the previous value and the latest value, and does a diff to see which parts of the DOM need to be updated. And so you'll notice the form isn't getting wiped out, the H1 isn't getting wiped out, only those specific areas where I'm using dynamic expressions is what's actually changing in the DOM. So you'll notice that only the value changed, and then only the inner text of the H1 changed. So under the hood, that's the virtual DOM. It's smart enough to only update the things that need to be updated. And the render function we have here is a mechanism that is the virtual DOM algorithm uses, because this whole return value here just gets turned into basically a JavaScript object that represents the DOM. And then we compare the old one and the new one, and if anything changed, it updates those things. So that's the basics of the virtual DOM. That's probably all you need to know about it to even get started with React. But there's a lot more to it. But yeah, okay. So we're doing not that great on time. We've talked about very basic stuff. So one thing that I want to add here is actually use callback. Because you'll notice right here for onChange, I'm passing in a function, and this is an expression, right? I am basically defining a function, and on every single render, I am actually redefining this function. And for a simple app like this, doesn't matter at all. But this actually, would that work? Can I use callback here? I think it would. We'll try it. It should work. But use callback will basically create a cached version of that function, so it doesn't have to recreate the function on every render. So let's try it. We're gonna do this. On name change equals use callback that gets access to the event. And then we're just going to log the event like this. And we're going to pass an empty array because there are no dependencies. And then right here on change, we're actually going to set to on name change like this. So we have this. We're setting it to that. And then and we're pulling in use callback from React as well. Let's see if this actually logs the event. I don't know. Will this work? It does. But we're not actually changing the value. And so inside of here, we should be able to say, oh, and let's also log event.target.value. And then we'll say set name with event.target.value. Like that. Let's see what we get. Hello world. Cool. So it works. Now, like I mentioned, you don't have to do this. It still worked without doing this, but basically what we've done here is a minor optimization. Instead of recreating this callback function on every render, we're now using a cached version of it because it doesn't have any dependencies on external state. So this is another hook that we can use callback. Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll have any reason to do use ref. Okay, let's keep moving. We need to create a React app. So we're basically or a to-do app. So let's change this this idea of calling it a name. And here, I'm just gonna comment this out. We're gonna rewrite it to be a to-do app. It'll be very similar. We'll use all of the things that we've learned so far, but it's going to get a little more complex because we need to manage more state. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of that H1. We're going to have a label that says enter a to do. And then now instead of calling it name, we're going to call it new to do. And instead of calling it set name, we're going to call it set new to do. And the initial value here is actually just going to be an empty string. And then we'll rename this on name change to on new to do change. Like that. Look at that. Our app has just turned into a to-do app. Cool. Inaccessible input labels. We could get this going. So we can say for equals new to do, and then this can have an ID of new to do and a name of new to do. Yes, and a good point. Thank you very much, Andrew. HTML4. So up until this point, we haven't really come across something like this, but because we're working in JSX, we can't actually use the word for. The JSX compiler is basically saying like, oh, you want to do a for loop right here? No, we don't. So because for is a reserved keyword in JavaScript, when you're working in JSX, you have to say HTML4 like that. And works in the same way, but JSX knows what to do with it. So that's a little more accessible. So now that I've set up those two things, whenever I click the label, it will focus the input. So like learn JavaScript. Cool. All right. And yeah, and later on, I don't know if we're even going to use classes, but if you're using the class keyword, like on an element, you would say class name instead. Yeah, and you actually can use JSX with Vue.js. You can create your own render functions. That's the thing. Okay, so I'm going to remove this logging of when things are getting called. And we have a basic form. Yeah, and so we're already calling the function when the form is submitted. And we've already talked about use callback. So this use callback creates this callback function that is reusable, and we don't have to create a new one every single time. See you later, JFellyWeb. Thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any classes yet, but if we wanted classes, we would say class name. Okay, so that's great. What's next? Create a string value and store the user input. We're already doing that, right? We have our state value called new to do, and that is bound to the input. So that's how we're going to keep track of creating new to dos. What do you got for me, Isaacs? Just an H1. Great work. Nice H1. We're already listening for when the input changes and updating our state. We're already logging the user input. Now we need to actually keep track of all of our to-dos. And let's also do this. We are going to add a button that says add to do, like that. So we'll say learn JavaScript. We'll click this button and it should add the to-do. Now, right now, you saw that it just like disappears. That's because we're not preventing the default action. So we need to do that, just like plain old JavaScript in our callback function here. Oh, no, sorry, not that one. We need a listener for when the form is submitted. So we'll add a listener for the onSubmit function, onSubmit. And we need a function, something like form submitted. And we can just do that here. Const form submitted is a function that also gets access to the event. And then for now, we're just going to do event.prevent default. Like that. And we'll just log form was submitted. Cool. Should work. Now, open, okay. H1. Oh, nice, Uberbot. That's good to hear. Because of me, they started to learn JavaScript. Open me. Never gonna give you. Does that count? That's a Rickroll. I'll potentially talk about useEffect, but what I'll say is that they work in it works in a very similar way to use callback, in that, well, not really. I mean, the similar thing about it is that it takes an array of dependencies, but otherwise the function inside of it is just going to get called whenever the dependencies change. It's a little different. Okay, but so we have this form submitted function, but again, the thing to think about is every time this component renders. What happened with the spacing there? That should not be like that. let's just fix that. But every time the state changes, this whole function runs again. It re-renders. And so an optimization would be to say use callback and pass an empty array because this form submitted callback shouldn't change unless its dependencies change. Okay, so let's look at our to-do, or our checklist. Now let's keep track of all the to-dos. So we can say hello world, oh no, learn JavaScript, add to-do. The form was submitted, and now we want to do something with it. So we want to keep track of all the to-dos. What do you got for me? Nice. Thank you, Easter. You stay safe as well. And thanks for the follow, OP Scripter. Hey, that didn't work. Okay. Yeah, we want to keep track of all the to-dos. So for that, we're going to use another useState. Now, technically, you could call useState with an object that has multiple properties, like new to-do is a string, and then to-dos is an array. Like, technically, you could do something like that. But it's much simpler and actually easier to create multiple state values. So just like we have a state value for the new to-do, which keeps track of what the user is entering, we're going to create a state value for all of our to-dos. So we're going to have to-dos, and we'll say we'll have a set to-dos. And this is going to be useState. And what goes in the parentheses? What should the initial value be? You tell me right now, and you get 10 Coding Garden points. And eventually we'll create something to track those points. I don't know. If you open me, you need to sing. All right, I don't want to sing. And thanks for the follow, Montreal Chrisley. An array, an empty array, yeah. So when the application first starts up, there is there are no to-dos, right? So we just start off with an empty array, like that. Good to go. Just real quick though, let's actually start it off. So starting it off as an empty array makes it so that we have no to-dos, right? When the form is submitted, we're going to put something into the array, which creates a new to-do. And let's go ahead and do that. So right here, we're just saying the form was submitted. Instead of doing that, let's actually just push a value into the to-dos array. So when the form was submitted, we are going to call set to-dos. And this is where React gets interesting. Basically, you can't just modify the array. So, right, like you could say todos.push and then pass something into it, but then React would not know that the array has changed. We have to actually call set to-dos. And in React, the state is immutable. So typically you wouldn't do something like push. So we call set to-dos. We spread, thank you, Azadine, we spread the existing values of to-dos, and then we pass in what new value we want to put into that array. And so we'll say the content is going to be new to-do because this is what the user entered into the form. We'll have some other properties like done is false. And we probably also want an ID. And for now, the ID is just going to be todos.length +1. Cool. Now, this is great and all, but this use callback has a dependency array. And because we're using things inside of this function, we need to let this use callback know about that. So right here, we need to pass in to-dos because we basically need to, we're saying if to-dos ever changes, we need a new function so it has the latest to-dos. The other thing we need is new to-do. So if new to-do ever changes, we need a new callback because it needs to have the latest value of new to-do. And that should do it. And what I'm going to do right here is just log to-dos. And the interesting thing about this is going to log on every single render. And you may not have realized this, but watch what happens. So you'll notice that it logged twice. That means that my component has actually rendered twice. And when I change things, the component is re-rendering, right? So that console log being inside of this function is actually going to run every single time the component renders. We don't necessarily want that. We really just want to know when the to-dos array changes. And for that, I think useEffect is a great use case. So we're not actually going to call any API, but this will let us keep track of when to-dos changes. So I'm going to add useEffect right here. And this is the way useEffect works. So we'll say useEffect, we pass it a function, and then we pass it a dependency array. So basically, what does this function care about? And in this case, it cares about to-dos. And so I want to know whenever the to-dos array changes, and then I'll just say, I'll just log to-dos right here. To-dos. And we should see, this should only log once, right? Because up until this point, it hasn't changed, but it has an initial value. And now when I'm saying things, when I'm like typing, like learn JavaScript, it's not logging because this useEffect will only run this function if this array of dependencies has changed. So now when I click add to do, we can see that the to-dos array updated. So we can see, and then inside of here we have an object, and it has learn JavaScript inside of it. So that's great. What are you saying? How long until CJ is... I can't read that. Literally just a playground. It already is. That's what makes it fun. But the real Python says, so it's sort of an on change for a variable in a way. So like at its base function, yes, this function will only run if its dependencies change. Similar to use callback, this function will only get recreated if its dependencies change. However, this is where people typically do things like API calls. So you could have a useEffect with an empty array, and that means it's only ever going to get called once. And you could have, this makes it kind of like a component did mount. So if there's no dependencies in this array, it'll only get called once. You could make your API request, update state, and you're good to go. Okay. One thing I'm not mentioning is when you pass in a function, you can actually return a function, and this function gets called whenever the component is unmounted or disposed. Like component was unmounted. And this is where you can do things like cleanup, like remove event listeners and stuff like that. And we're not really ever going to see this. Because our, oh, actually, I guess it, because it technically re-renders the app component. Yeah. So every time we add a to-do, because it has to re-render it, technically it gets removed. Interesting. But inside of this function, you can do things that would require cleanup. Okay. When would you call an API if you had to query it first? I would do it in a useEffect, potentially with an empty dependency array. That's possible. Good morning, Brooks. What's up? Did I mention that onChange and onChange make a difference because that low request? Yes. No, I didn't, but that's a good point. You'll notice that in any of my event listeners on these elements, I'm using camel case, and you have to do that with React. So technically, you could have onSubmit like that, which is an HTML attribute. You don't want that. You want the camel cased one because that's the one that React knows about and will actually like bind it to your expressions. That's a good point. Thank you, Infi. Whoa. I found the first to do. Open me. I'm not going to sing that. No. Thank you. Yeah. And Ahmed is saying, clear the new to do on submit. Let's do it. So whenever we add a new to do, like learn JavaScript, how can we clear this input box, right? I click add to do, but I want this to disappear, right? Because I want them to be able to enter in something new. What do I need to do? Any ideas? I will remind you that the input is bound, the value is bound to new to do. So what can I do right here? 10 coding garden points, if you can tell me. How many years did it take to get so cool? Event.target.value equals empty string, not quite. Remember that this is bound to state. So we need to use our function that updates the state, which changes the value that it's bound to here. Set new to do. Yeah, Ahmed's got it. So we call our set new to do function with an empty string. And because our input value is bound to new to do, then it will just be an empty string and empty it out. So right after we add the new to do, we'll say set new to do. with an empty string, like that. And this should do it. So if I say learn JavaScript, it empties it out because it set it to nothing, and we can see that the to-dos array now actually has values inside of it. Great work, great work. Okay, what else is in my README? I think we got about 15 minutes. Yeah, so we added a new to-do to the array. Let's actually show the to-dos on the page. So right below the form, I'm going to have an unordered list. And basically, I want a list item with each to-do, right? I want to have something like learn JavaScript. And I want this only to appear if that's actually in my array of to-dos. So basically what I need to do is I need to map over this array of to-dos and display those inside of my JSX. So we're going to do that right here. And remember, if you have a JavaScript expression, you use curly braces. So we have curly braces. Oh, you focus my attention. Don't do that. Please don't do that. I think everyone is read-only, though. No. No. I'm going to take that as you didn't know what it was going to do, but that's okay. So right here inside the curly braces, we'll say to-dos. To-dos is an array of objects, and we're going to map it. So we're going to say map, and that's going to give us access to each individual to-do item. And then inside of here, we'll return some JSX. So in this case, I'm just going to return a list item that has to-do dot content inside of it. So remember, whenever we push a new to-do into the array, we're setting the content property to actually have the to-do item. And so we're mapping it, and we're showing that list item there. Let's see what happens. So we say learn JavaScript. We click add to-do, and it shows up. Magic! Part of JSX is that you can have an array of elements, and React knows what to do with that. You'll notice that we don't have to join it together on a string or anything like that. We literally just map over them, and they show up on the page. And thanks for the follow, Akash. Yeah, you found my theme, just black. If we say set new to do, the variable new to do changes, and the input value depends on the new to do variable, and it's changed. Now, onChange method needs to be retriggered. It doesn't. So set new to do sets it to empty string. That updates the new to do value. I'm using use callback here, and it needs the latest value of new to do. So technically, this will create a new callback that has the latest value of new to do. That's not a bug. New to do changed just sets the to do. It doesn't need the old value, so that's not going to re-render or do anything like that. So I think we're good to go. We're good to go there. And thanks for the follow, Omar. Quack is asking, how can I mimic the should component update using hooks? You would use a use effect. So you can put your array of dependencies. These can be props. These can be state variables. And whenever these things change, this function will get called. And then you could have conditional logic inside of here that updates the state only if certain things changed. Now, because we are using functional components, we actually, technically, you can't implement should component update. Like, no matter what, it's going to re-render this function. If you really want to stop the render from happening, you would need to use a class component. And I think even that might be deprecated now, should component update. Maybe not. For that, you would probably use a pure component. I don't know, but technically, with hooks, which can only be used in functional components, you can't stop them from updating. So technically, you can't do a should component update. But you can do conditional logic setting in a conditional state setting in a use effect based on the dependencies. And thanks for the follow, game. Thanks for the follow, DZ. Yeah, and so we need a key. Thank you, Jan. Yeah, well, thank you, Dylan. Hope you have a great day, too. Money! So the entire list is re-rendered each time a new key is added. It's not, and that's because of the virtual DOM. And I'll show you that. So right now we see an error in the console. It says each child in a list should have a unique key prop. And the reason we need to add a key prop is because the virtual DOM will know whether it needs to update a given list item. So you'll notice right now we're not using keys. And so if I add something new, like, actually, I think even if so if I say, learn React, or no, we'll say learn ES 2015. And click add to do. Technically, it just added that new list item there, but if we really want to be explicit, we can let React know when and if that element should update. And so right here we can add a key, and we're going to set the key to be todo.id. That should get rid of our warning in the console, like that. And now the virtual DOM algorithm has Florin Pop raid. Awesome. It's an unofficial YouTube raid. Welcome, everyone. We're learning React. And thanks for the follow, Faraz. That's great. Yeah, YouTube really does need an official rating feature. Doesn't exist yet. Welcome, everyone. And anybody that hasn't checked out Florin's channel, definitely check him out. youtube.com/FlorinPop. Yeah, it looks like you're still live, but I guess everyone's coming over here. Welcome, everyone. So we are learning the basics of React and hooks. And what we just talked about was mapping over an array that's on our state. Yeah, so we put the key there. And if we look in the DOM here, React, the virtual DOM algorithm will actually use that key to be smart about updating these list items. So as they learn JavaScript, add to do. We don't actually see the key here, but under the hood it's using it. And I'll say like learn ES6. And you'll notice that the whole list didn't re-render, it just added that new one. Welcome, everyone. There's more people. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So by default, the virtual DOM diffing algorithm knows not to update the entire list. Technically, this map is going to run every time, but that creates like a virtual DOM object, and then that is compared with the previous version, and it only changes the actual things in the DOM that need to be updated. But technically, the map still does run under the hood. Yeah, we're going to add deleting, and yeah, we're close. So now we're showing all of the to-dos. And it's important to note that the key right here needs to be unique, because if it's not unique, that's when you'll run into update errors, because the virtual DOM diffing algorithm will see two elements that have the same key, and it won't know which one to update, and it might update the wrong one. So you need to make sure that these keys are unique. Right now, this is very basic. We're just setting the key to be, or the ID to be the length of the array. If you're working with an API in a database, then you can have a very unique key, which is preferred. And thanks for the follow, Omendingo. Omendigo? Does the key show up if you have two to-dos? It doesn't, but one thing I have not showed yet is the React DevTools. So you can install this for Firefox and Chrome. But if you click on components, you can actually see, I believe, what gets rendered. Oh, it looks like we only see the component level. Well, that's weird. Let's refresh it. Yeah, I guess we only see the component. But the React DevTools do let you see like what hooks are being used and what your state is. But really that key is just used internally for the updating algorithm. Okay, let's see where we're at in the to-do list. Check done on a to-do to mark it as done. Let's do that. So, when we render these list items, I want to show a checkbox next to it. Let's do this. So inside of the li, we'll have the to-do content, and right here I'm just going to have an input type equals checkbox. Is that a thing we can do? So we'll say learn JavaScript. That works. Yeah, we could style it custom. It's fine. Let's see. I want to make this checkbox bigger. 5 rims. Is that how you style a checkbox to make it bigger? I don't know. Thanks for the follows, everyone. Thanks for the follow, Pete. Thanks for the follow. I am Aruspo? That's a good point, D-Trouble. We can prevent them from adding an empty to-do. Yeah, so we can do that, and that we shouldn't allow that, so we'll prevent that from happening. What if I have the same list twice on the page and use to-do as the key? Then you'll run into an update error. It'll say multiple items have the same key, which you don't want. It's good to know. So when would something like GWIDs be better? Or would you combine the ID with a unique identifier? I would say in general, you want to use something like a GWID or an ID from a database. You really never want to use the index in the array because that could change. However, because you might see some people do this because this is a map. We also get access to the index, and you might set the key equal to the index. When that's not very good is what if the order changes, or what if one of them gets deleted? Then it's technically the wrong key now. So you really never want to do that. But as long as it's a predetermined unique thing, it's totally fine. And thank you for the follows, Annette. Local storage. We might talk. I gotta go like in 10-ish minutes. I really gotta go. Oh yeah, I don't have my break timer running. Great point. We should probably take a break. And then we can do the last few things. Let's go ahead and trigger a break. We're gonna do a one more little 5-minute break. Oh, I guess I did the micro break, but if you've been sitting at home for a while, take a stretch. Stand up if you're not standing up. You probably can't tell, but I'm actually standing right now. I just have the camera at a certain angle, so it kind of looks like I'm sitting. It needs padding to be bigger. Let's see. Excuse me. I don't know. There's definitely a way. I don't know if we're going to worry about that, though. Yeah, that's a good point, Ahmed. Because if you remove the last one in the array, then you technically might actually have a duplicate ID. I like that. I'm not CJ, but as a former teacher, I know that's a great way to get to really know a subject. Oh, were we answering some other question, I think? Yeah. Well, I want to use set new to do value. So, because I don't care about the previous value. I always just, in this scenario right here, I always just want to blank it out, which is why I'll just do empty string. You can technically use the callback to get access to the previous value. Like here where we're spreading to do is, I believe technically this could accept a function, but that's fine. You cannot style checkboxes and are better off making a custom one. Oh, okay. I won't worry about that then. We'll just add a checkbox. Like that. Refuse to allow users to reorder the list. Hello, Bob. Welcome. Use zoom or scale. Oh, that's not hacky. I'm okay with that. Oh, is that too big? It's huge. Well, that didn't work. Okay, we're gonna forget about it. Am I from Grand Theft Auto? No, that's not me. The name is called Just Black. If you do exclamation mark theme, you might get a oh no, you not might. You will get a link to my theme. Zoom is deprecated. Scale 200%. Doesn't work. I'm not going to worry about it. I keep saying I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so what we want to do is whenever we check the box, we want to mark this to do as done. And if it is done, we will put a line through the item itself. So let's do this. This input is it's gonna work in a very similar way to the text box at the top. Oh yeah, and before I forget, we want to prevent people from adding a new to-do that is empty. So right here, we'll say if new to-do.trim is not a thing, then just return. So this will prevent someone from adding a to-do to the array that doesn't have anything in it. So now you can't add anything that's empty. That's good. And then we want to do this, which works. And we want to check the box, which marks it as done. So we have a checkbox. And we want an onChange event. Transform, scale to. Didn't I try that? I'm not. Didn't I? I'm not. Wait, what is Katoli saying? Alt 255? React and hooks don't necessarily replace Redux. You have use reducer, which could replace it, and you have the context API, which could replace it. But at the end of the day, there isn't really a replacement for the Redux dev tools, which is a good reason to use Redux in general. Do I want to use onClick? I don't think so. Let's just do this inline really quick. And let's just log event.target.checked. So this should tell us whether or not it's checked. And we'll look at the console. True, false, true, false, true, false. Cool. And then initially we can bind the value. So we can say here the value is equal to to-do.done. Because whenever we create a to-do, we have this done property, which is true or false. And here we are binding, well, we don't want to bind the value. We want to bind the checked property. So we'll bind checked to be to-do.done. And so now if I check it, it shouldn't actually check because we need to update state. So right now, wait, true? Why is it true? Should be false. Regardless, now we can set it. So we need a function that will actually like update the to-do itself so that it is checked. And to do this, we technically need to create a new array where that one specific element or that one specific to-do has its done property changed to true. So how are we going to do that? Well, technically inside of this map, we also have access to the index. So we could do this. We can say old to-dos is to-dos dot slice. That'll make a copy of the array. And then we can say old to-dos dot splice. We want to replace the one at this index. Or sorry, we want to remove it at this index, one of them, and then replace it with itself. We could spread all of its existing props, so that creates a copy of the content and the ID. And then we can set done to be to-do.done, the opposite of that. Will this work? And then we can say set to-dos and pass in let's call it new to-dos instead of old to-dos. So create a copy of the array. Oh no, did I get this wrong? This should be splice. No, slice creates a copy, and then splice will remove at that index and insert a new one. Let's see what happens. Learn spice. To-dos.spice. Yeah, so that works. So true, false, true, false. And you'll notice when it's true, we have that element that says done is true, and this one has the element done is false. Now, there's a lot going on right here. And I probably want to extract this to a function. And I don't really want to have this inline in my JSX. So let's do this. I'm going to create a function that I can call. Yeah, because I mean, we could do todos.slice, Katoli is mentioning, or we could spread it to create a new array. The main thing being React does not know if the internals of a state value changed. It only knows if the reference changes. So by setting a brand new array, it will know to update the DOM. Thanks for the follow, Die. Press Alt F4. What does that do? I'm not really into Bitcoin, no. Okay, but yeah, I do want to extract this to a function. Let's call this like add to do. And it's going to need access to the to-do and the index. But ultimately, this should return a function that accepts an event. So this is going to get weird. Add to-do is a function that takes in the to-do and the index. And then it returns an event like this. So this is a closure. If anyone has ever asked you what is a closure used for, this is exactly that scenario. So this will actually give us back a function that has a reference to that specific to-do and that specific index. And then later on when the event gets called, we can call it like this. Now, I believe we can use callback on this thing. Let's try it. A closure. And the one thing that this callback cares about is the to-dos array. So we're going to say use callback with this, and then it should only change if the to-dos array changes. See if it works. That's there. We can mark it true. We can mark it false. All right, we're making progress. Now, one other thing we'll do is we'll change the style of this element, of this list item, if the to-do is done. So we're going to just do some conditional class name binding. So we mentioned earlier, if you want to set a class on an element, you have to use the attribute class name, not just class. And then you can use curly braces and then provide an expression. So I can do something like this. I could have a ternary. I could say if todo.done, then I want to apply the done class. Otherwise, I don't want to apply any class. And now, if we look at the DOM, let's look at that. Let's look at that. And we'll add an item. Learn ES6. And we'll look at this element. We'll look at this LI. If I check it, it now has the class done. And if I uncheck it, it has no class. So we're dynamically adding that class name to it. And actually, I think I want to put that on the, I only want to put it on the text itself. So I'm going to wrap this to-do content in a span and then move this class name attribute to the span itself. Like that. And then I need a done class. So in my CSS, I'm going to say done just says text decoration line through. Like that. And this should do it. So if I say learn JavaScript, add to do, and then I check it, it gets a line through it. That's great. Awesome. I am not self-taught. I got a computer science degree. Array.from? That could work. Yeah, and I think someone answered it, but use callback creates a cached version of the function. Otherwise, we would get a brand new reference on every single render. Cool. Yeah. So, and you can technically have any JavaScript expression in here. Typically, I'll do things like this. Like I'll put this entire expression in an array and then join it on a space. And then let's say I want to apply other class names as well. Like I want to apply the to-do text class, and I want to apply the other class. And simply using JavaScript to join that array on spaces, that gives me a list of class names that should be applied to it. And that can be any JavaScript you want. But for now, we're just going to do this. Much simpler. Cool. And thanks for the follow. Oh, yeah, man. Thanks for the follow, Ramison. My marquee implementation is not compliant with the spec. I don't know what to do about that. And thanks for the follow, Wayside. Can I use fetch in a function when requesting resources at some route? Yeah, you absolutely can make fetch requests on the server side. I do that all the time. Okay. Cool. We're showing a line through it. That's great. One other thing that we want to do is we want to be able to delete to-do items. So I'm going to have a button right here that says remove to-do. And let's see our checklist. So we're showing a line through it. Add a button to remove it. We're doing that right now, but we'll have to set the function. So now if I say learn React, I now have this button. And when I click this button, I want to actually remove this to-do from the page. Let's do it. So right here, we'll say on click, and we'll create a function called remove to do, and we'll pass in. Really, we just need the index is all we need to be able to remove it from the array. I guess technically we could pass in the to do reference itself. Yeah. Take a quick stretch. Yeah, we'll pass in the to-do reference because then we can use a filter when updating the to-do's state. An X would be better, like clicking an X. Well, we're going to have a button for now. Okay, so I need this function remove to-do. This is going to be another one of those closures. We'll write it first without the use callback. So this accepts the to-do, and then it returns a function that can be used for the DOM event of onClick. And for now, we're just going to log the to-do that we want to remove. Okay. Learn React, add to-do. I click this button, it wants to specifically remove that one, so that's good. And then we need another state update. So similar to how we made a copy of the array and then changed that one specific one, what we want to do here is create a copy of the array and remove that one specific one. There are a lot of different ways to do it. We could technically splice it. Filter is probably the easiest way, or it's gonna look the nicest. So right here, when we want to remove this to-do, we can say set to-dos. And we want to set to-dos to be to-dos.filter. Some other to-do is going to give us each one. And we'll say where the other to-do is not this to-do. And so we're basically updating the state by filtering out that one specific to-do that we're trying to remove. But like I said, you could splice it. You could go a lot of different ways about it. I specifically am going to do a filter here. I guess another way of updating here would have been to use a reduce. That might be fun to see, but I do need to go. We're pretty much done with this app. But let's turn this into a use callback again, like so. And the thing that it depends on are the to-dos, like that. And this should work. So we will say learn JavaScript. Oh, I misspelled it. Editing is a whole nother feature. We could add that later. Learn ES5. Learn CSS. Learn React. Learn Redux. Okay, so now we have a bunch of to-do items. I misspelled this one, so I want to remove it. We click the button, and it's gone. And then I'll re-edit. Learn JavaScript. Okay, and this is the error that I knew we were going to run into, and someone mentioned earlier how we could fix it, but encountered two children with the same key. This is fine, technically. So, I mean, if you want to do a strict equality, you could do double, but either one would have worked in this scenario. The newest one should be added to the top. We can do that. We were doing that here. So basically, instead of putting it at the bottom, we can do this. So we spread the array afterwards. That should put it at the top. And then the other thing that would fix the ID issue is instead of just taking the length of the array, we could say to-dos at the last one. So to-dos.length -1, its ID, and then add 1 to it. That should prevent getting the duplicate IDs. So learn JavaScript. Oh no! Cannot read property ID of undefined. If there is a length, we do this. Otherwise, the ID is just going to be 1. Started off as 1. Cool. Learn JavaScript. Learn ES5. Learn ES6. And you'll notice they're appearing at the top now, which is nice. Oh, no. Oh, but now that they're appearing at the top, we can't take the last ID? Or can we? Yeah, we don't want to take the last one. We want to take the first one. Because we're doing it in reverse now. So the unique IDs are always at the top. We could create a random ID. Yeah, I don't, yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. A math.random, but using, like, that's not hexadecimal. What is a 36 radix? What base is that? Because you could do a 2-string 2, and that's binary. What is 36? Is that hex? No, hex is 16. It's base 36. I don't know if there's a special name for it. That's pretty cool. Thanks for that, Stefan. Okay, so this should work. Learn JavaScript. Base 36. Let's just call it base 36. Cool. Learn ES5. Learn ES6. Learn React. Learn Redux. This is actually the order you should learn it in. So you should learn JavaScript first, the basics of it, know what is ES5, know what is ES6, then jump into React, then jump into Redux. Cool. But now I should be able to remove items. I can remove any item. I can mark any item as done, and we have ourselves a to-do app. Whew. That was a whole lot of code. But we learned a lot, right? We learned a lot. Yeah, learn ES7, ES8, 9, 10. What are we at now? Cool. Let's look at our README. The things that we did not get to are, we'll do this really quick. Actually, I'm okay with that. But we didn't get to talk about creating separate components. We didn't talk about passing props. We can get much more complex with this and potentially like nicer code, because right now we just have one big component that has everything inside of it. And in larger applications, it's not ideal. Right? It's not ideal to have all this stuff in just one component. You can start to split things up and share logic and different things like that. So in a future episode, we'll do that. But just real quick, I want to create a button that marks all the to-dos as done. That should be pretty easy. So let's put that right here. Let's have a button that says mark all done. And so if I click this, they should all the checkboxes should check. And we'll say on click, we'll do mark all done. And then we need a function to do that. This will be a use callback. It's dependent on the to-dos array because, well, is it? Yeah, because it needs to modify that array or create a new version of that array. And then, technically, what we need to do is create a copy of the array, and then create a copy of each of the items, and then change the done property to true on every single one. What is MP saying? Years are greater than numbers. Oh, ES 2019. Okay, yeah. Too much scrolling and large. Exactly, yeah. This is getting way too much to be one single component. So there's a lot of ways to go about this. We could like create a for loop and copy each object. I'm just going to use a reduce. I know a lot of people are new to that, but basically what we need to do, I'll tell you what, this is what we need to do. However you do it, it's up to you. But create a copy of the array. Create a copy of each of the items. Update the done property to be true on each of the new items. Cool. So this is what we need to do. There's a million and one ways to do it. I'm going to use a reduce. So I'm going to say new to-dos are going to be to-dos.reduce. This is going to give us each individual to-do. And we are reducing this into an array. It already is an array, but we're going to reduce it to an array. I guess technically I could do a map. Yeah, we'll do a map. That's way easier. Map. Let's do a map. To-dos.map, because this map will create a new array. We're going to get each individual to-do. And then we need to return a new version of the to-do, a copy of it. So we're going to return an object with all of its properties spread, but we're going to set the done property to be true. That was a lot easier than I thought. But ultimately, this is what this does. It creates a copy of the array because it's a map, and then it creates a copy of each of the items. It doesn't just modify the done property. It creates a copy, and then it overwrites the done property to true. All right. So that's great. And then we need to say set to-do to be new to-dos. I mean, technically, we could call this like updated to-dos. Like that. But that should do it. So let's add a bunch. Learn JS. Learn ES 2015. Learn React. Learn Redux. Okay. Mark 'em all is done. And it works. Look at us. No, I turned slow mode on. There were just a lot of people watching earlier. Thanks for the follow, Spitty. And thanks for the follow, Omen King, and thanks for the follow, HCVRR, Zvendobry in 21. I do have to go, though. So this was fun. I'm going to push all this code up to GitHub. If you look in the description of the video and the description on Twitch, that GitHub link, all of this code will be there. But I'll remind you, what I did not cover are components, props, and there are other things we could do as well. But we talked about the basics of JSX, the basics of effects, the basics of state, all that good stuff. And thanks for the follow, Raulra and 26. Raid Clarkio? Yeah, we'll see who's streaming. I might raid Instafluff though. We didn't raid him last time. Let's see who's live though. But you could take this a step further. You could break this down into a to-do item component, a to-do list component, a to-do form component, and create nice little reusable components all over the place. But that's it for now. This was super fun. Thanks everyone for your suggestions and questions and all that good stuff. I have to go. I do have to go. Instilfuff isn't live. Hopefully he's feeling okay. I think he had some sniffles yesterday. It is, yeah, it's Friday, right? He's usually live on Fridays. Well, thank you, Akshay. Okay. No, Instafluff is live. Look at him. Searching for Filbert. Let's see what Clarkio is working on. He's looking at Amazon. He does not have corona. Don't say that. Don't say that. Seems complicated enough. Yeah, Jippy, React gets pretty complicated pretty quick, but it works really well with very large applications. If like a simple app like this, you could have built with vanilla JavaScript with not very much code, but you know. And thanks for the follow, Kate Silurion. What are they? What is he working on today, though?
If I recall correctly, and I really enjoyed that.
I don't know. Fun Function is live. I think he's probably going to be ending soon. Oh, yeah, somebody there with him. That's interesting. Who do we raid? Ooh, nice work, Infi. Long code, complicated stuff. Seems about right. Let's see if there's anybody else on the live coders. Is Ed Raimu? MB Crump? Full Stack Live? We'll raid Clarkio. He's a cool dude. So, if you are watching on YouTube, please head. Oh, thank you. And Andrew has the raid message. But if you're watching on YouTube, please head over to Twitch. That's too many messages, Andrew. Wow. Head over to Twitch. Follow me on Twitch if you have not followed me on Twitch. Pretty soon I will be streaming only on Twitch. I will still be uploading my videos to YouTube, but I'm going to stream on Twitch for the most part. And this video will be available right here on YouTube right after this stream is over. So it's at the exact same URL. You'll be able to watch it. All of the code will be on GitHub. Follow the link in the description. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching. This was super fun. I feel like I'm going to stream quite a bit this weekend. We'll see what happens, but most likely we're going to stream quite a bit this weekend. All right. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning. Oh my goodness. Look at all the drops. They cached. They were drops that didn't happen while the other screen was on. I don't know. But wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.